Hello?
Creepy, dark figures often hide in the corners of our vision and show themselves when we least expect it.
Mira, algo le salió por atrás. Algo le salió por atrás.
Appearing out of nowhere, they give people the shock of their lives and then disappear forever. So tag along for the most disturbing moments that still keep paranormal experts up at night.
I asked you to take these demons away from my house.
Playing Ouija started out as a fun game for the girl, but things quickly turned unsettling. While hanging out with her friends, a dark, eerie figure suddenly appeared in the room. In the video she shared, the shadowy shape stayed in the background, moving slowly, with only its glowing eyes visible. Frightened, she ran and hid in her room. When she peeked out by slightly opening the door, the figure was still there, standing right outside and staring at her with those same glowing eyes. It was clear it wasn't going anywhere. RedEyed Demon. Some places are better left undiscovered, and one man learned this lesson the hard way. Driven by curiosity, he entered an abandoned building, expecting to find only dust and forgotten remnants of the past. But what he saw shocked him badly. As he turned around, a giant figure loomed in the doorway behind him, its pale face and glowing red eyes staring straight at him. Before he could react, it vanished into the darkness. He quickly turned on his torch, but the figure was gone, leaving only the echo of his footsteps. He fled the building, never to return. Lifesaver. Sometimes, even ghosts can play an unexpected role in keeping us safe. This was proven by a video of a man who experienced something strange in his kitchen. He was on a call, distracted, with the stove left on. When he was about to leave, the tap turned on by itself. Frustrated, he turned it off, only to have it turn back on again. He shut it off once more, but something caught his attention. He heard something fall from a shelf. When he looked, he realized the stove was still on, with the flame high. It was then that he understood an unseen presence had guided him, helping him avoid a potential disaster by drawing his attention at just the right moment.
On the oven. I told you she's a demon. I told you she's a demon.
Red eyes. A camera was set up in a room to watch over the children, but what it captured was far from expected. The footage showed a dark, shapeless figure with glowing eyes, standing quietly in the room. It didn't make a sound, just hovered in the shadows, watching. When the footage was reviewed, the sight of it left everyone speechless. It was hard to explain what they had seen or what the figure could be, but it left them with more questions than answers. Unseen presence.
I asked you to take these demons away from my house.
A man, feeling the weight of the dark presence in his haunted house, decided to pray for protection. But as he prayed, something shifted. Nearby, a table with a shelf suddenly had its items fall to the ground. The table moved on its own, as if something unseen had nudged it. But the real twist came when the door to the room started opening and closing by itself, as if something was trying to get out. Instead of panicking, the man remained calm and slowly, with great caution, walked out of the room. It felt like a warning sign, perhaps that he shouldn't stay there any longer. Mirror ghost. While exploring an abandoned house, an explorer stumbled upon a relic that would leave him shaken. As he walked past a dusty old mirror, something caught his eye in its reflection. A girl with long, dark hair appeared, peeking from behind the glass. Her face was nearly hidden, yet her presence was impossible to ignore. The explorer stood frozen, unable to tear his gaze away, before quickly turning and walking away. But even after leaving the house, he couldn't shake the feeling that the girl in the mirror was still watching him, her eyes following his every move. Creepy being. This man was peacefully sleeping in his room when suddenly a dark, shadowy figure appeared at the window above his bed. With a loud, creaking noise, the figure forcefully opened the window. The man woke up from the sound and quickly got out of bed to check, but when he looked, there was no one there. He stood there, confused, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The figure reappeared, this time grabbing him. Terrified, he broke free from its grip and ran out of the room. He immediately called the authorities, but when they arrived, the room was completely empty, leaving him with more questions than answers about what he had just experienced. Demonic girl. A video has surfaced online, and it's been leaving viewers with an unsettling feeling that lingers long after watching. The clip shows a little girl standing outside a door, her face oddly distant and hard to read. Inside, a woman calmly reaches out, her hands extended, as if trying to bring the girl inside. But as a few curious onlookers moved in closer to examine the scene, they were left in disbelief. The girl was gone. There was no trace of her, as if she had never stood there at all. The sudden, eerie silence that followed only deepened the mystery, leaving everyone who watched wondering what had really happened. Possessed Granny. This guy's grandmother was acting strange at night, so he decided to set up a camera and check what's wrong. And this is what he saw. In the night, his grandmother had sat up in an unnatural position, then stood and stared directly at the camera, her mouth wide open. To his horror, she began crawling around the room, her movements stiff and jerky. She even tried to bite the camera. The video left him shaken, unsure of what he'd really seen, or if the woman in the footage was still the grandmother he knew. Shadow Stalker. A man had been noticing odd little things around his house, creaking doors, flickering lights. One night, he set up a camera in the living room to figure out what was going on. He pressed the record button and walked upstairs to his bedroom. Everything seemed normal. But the next morning, as he watched the footage, he was stunned. A shadowy figure had followed him up the stairs. It didn't look like a person. It had the shape of a dog. No sound, no footsteps, just a ghostly animal form, silently trailing behind him like it had always lived there. New house. A couple was celebrating their new home purchase, filled with excitement and joy. They took a video outside the house, capturing the moment to remember. But when they later looked at it, something unsettling caught their eye. In the background, just behind the door, stood a figure, tall, with long, dark hair and glowing eyes. It seemed almost like it was hiding, watching them. The couple didn't see it when they took the photo, but there it was, frozen in time. Who or what was that? Creepy stare. One day, a man was standing by his window, enjoying the view, when something strange caught his eye. At first, he thought it was just a doll, but when he took a closer look, he was filled with terror. The figure wasn't a doll at all. Its expression was too unsettling, too lifelike, like something possessed rather than a toy. It was staring straight at him with wide, empty eyes, and the longer he looked, the more he realized it wasn't something he should be seeing. Ghost in home.
That window.
Yeah.
Yes.
It all started when the daughter of a family in the United Kingdom claimed to see a shadowy figure in the window of a nearby house. Concerned and unsure of what she had seen, the father decided to record the strange events outside. What the camera captured, however, was far more unsettling. An eerie shadow moved across the windows, shifting in ways that didn't make sense, as if it was floating or changing shape. The family watched in fear, unable to explain what they were witnessing. The footage left them with an unshakable sense that something or someone was watching them from just beyond the glass. Possessed date.
I'm sorry, what is that you do?
A lady went on a date with a man, expecting a nice evening out, but things quickly took an unsettling turn. Mid-conversation, her voice began to change, sounding deep and unfamiliar. Her eyes seemed to shift, no longer holding the warmth they had moments before. Then, in a moment, she whispered,
Sorry, yeah, I'm possessed.
The man was shocked, unsure how to react. Was she really being controlled by something, or was it all part of an elaborate act? What do you think? Could it be possession, or is there something else behind her strange behavior? Yeah. Creepy balloon. Even balloons aren't safe to keep at home these days, especially when they act like this. In the middle of the night, a woman noticed something strange. A big cartoon character balloon, barely inflated, was slowly floating up the stairs on its own. She quickly grabbed her phone and started recording, watching in disbelief as the balloon moved almost like it had a mind of its own. And when it came up, the lights went out. At that moment, she realized staying there wasn't a good idea. Without thinking twice, she rushed to her room, and it was the right call. Shadow under sink.
The bathroom door is the one that has been slamming itself.
For several days, a man had been dealing with strange and unexplained events in his home. Feeling curious and uneasy, he went outside the bathroom door, hoping to catch something on camera, and then the unexpected happened. Without any warning, the bathroom door slammed shut all on its own. The camera caught the moment in complete silence, except for the sharp bang. He stood there, stunned and unsure of what he had just witnessed. Was it just a trick of the house settling, or something more? The video left him, and anyone who watched it, questioning what really took place that night. Heavy footsteps. Late one evening, a couple began hearing strange noises coming from the basement. The man decided to investigate, carefully descending the stairs. When he reached the bottom, he found nothing unusual. As he was about to turn to head back up, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from behind him, growing louder with each passing second. He quickly spun around, but there was no one in sight. Without a second thought, he rushed back upstairs, locking the basement door behind him. The silence that followed was almost worse than the noise itself.
Oh my God!
Laughing ghost. A lady was sitting in her living room when she suddenly heard loud laughter coming from the kitchen. Surprised and unsettled, she decided to investigate. As she entered the kitchen, she saw a child hiding behind the shelf. But before she could do anything, the child vanished into thin air. The room fell silent, and she froze in place, unable to understand what she had just seen. With no one in sight, the strange silence left her feeling more frightened than before. Ghostly figure. It was a quiet night when a man, recently moved into his new home with his family, woke up to the sound of his son crying. Rushing out of his room, he spotted a figure down the hallway, looking just like his son. In the dim light, he hurried after it, thinking his child had gotten out of bed. But before he could catch up, his wife's calm voice called from behind, saying their son was still asleep. Feeling confused, they decided to check the security footage. What they saw surprised them. The figure, which had seemed like a blur to the naked eye, was clearly visible on the camera, moving quietly through their home, yet there was no sign of their son anywhere nearby. Haunted TV doll.
Seriously think this doll is possessed, do you?
I wouldn't necessarily say possessed, but there is, it has got something.
Two interviewers were seated across from a couple on live national TV, calmly talking about a doll known for strange activity. The doll sat quietly in a wooden chair beside them, still and silent. As the conversation went on, the camera stayed focused. Then, right in the middle of the interview, the chair began to move, slowly at first, then back and forth with more motion. No one touched it. The studio fell quiet. The rocking continued, live for everyone watching at home.
Look at that.
Who's doing that? Stop it. Who's doing that?
Possessed doll. A family set up a camera in their living room, hoping to catch any strange occurrences. What they didn't expect was the sight that appeared on the footage. A doll, which had been sitting still on the chair, suddenly turned its head left and right, smoothly, like a person. The family watched in shock, unable to explain what they were seeing. Was it just a glitch, or something far more eerie at play? Child mystery. A family had just moved into a new house when they began to notice something strange. Their child often sat alone, acting strangely. Curious, they set up a camera to check what was happening. When they reviewed the footage, they saw something unsettling. As the child headed toward his room, another child who looked exactly like him was there. The figure was only visible for a brief moment, just a glimpse, but when they checked the room, there was no one else. I guess they need to change the house again. Shadow figure. A family began to notice strange sounds at night, footsteps echoing from one of the rooms, even though no one was inside. After several nights of this, they decided to set up a camera to capture whatever was causing the noise. The next morning, they reviewed the footage, only to see something eerie. A shadowy figure moved across the room, its outline dark and undefined. The family watched in silence, unsure of what they were seeing. Could it be a shapeshifter, or perhaps a ghost? One thing was clear, the room held a presence that no one could explain. Cemetery ghost.
As you can see behind me here, we have a few gravestones.
This reporter was outside a cemetery discussing the recent paranormal reports surrounding the area. As she spoke, the camera continued to roll. Suddenly, in the background, there was a shadow, though no clear figure, but it was there, standing without any movement. The reporter was focused on her report, unaware of the figure lurking behind them. When the footage was reviewed, it was clear there was no one else in the cemetery. The figure wasn't a person, it was a ghost.
As you can see behind me here, we have a few gravestones.
Haunted farm. A man had just purchased a farm, excited for a fresh start, unaware of the dark history it held. One evening, as he sat in his car outside the house, he glanced up toward the window. That's when he saw it, a figure moving behind the glass. It seemed to glide slowly, its shape barely visible in the dim light. He froze, staring in disbelief. No one was supposed to be inside. The farm, it seemed, had more than just a past. It had a presence. Moving doll.
Is that an activity? I'm gonna leave the room, close the door.
It seemed like something straight out of Toy Story. A father didn't believe his children when they told him their doll had moved by itself. To him, it just sounded like their imagination running wild. But one day, he decided to set up a camera to catch the action. What he saw was truly unsettling. The footage showed the doll moving on its own, slowly shifting position in the bathroom with no one around to explain it. What was once dismissed as a child's tale was now undeniable proof. Something in their house was moving the doll.
I'm gonna put the camera down.
Glowing mystery.
Pip? Come here, guy.
A woman was filming her pet when she noticed something strange. As she pointed the camera at her room door, she saw glowing eyes peeking from behind it. Thinking it was her cat, she called its name. To her surprise, only her cat appeared, walking toward her. But the glowing eyes stayed behind the door for a few seconds before disappearing. It was clear there was something else there, but what it was, she never found out. It was a mystery that left her wondering who or what else had been watching.
Buddy?
Spirit in home.
Yo no la veo.
A group of men, eager for adventure, decided to explore a haunted house. As they moved through the dark, creaking halls, one of them noticed something strange, a small figure peering out from behind a wall. It was a girl, her face unnaturally pale and cold. Before anyone could react, she stepped fully into view, standing silently in front of them. A chill swept over the group as they realized they were facing something beyond explanation. Terrified at the sight, they rushed for the exit. Even after escaping, the image of the ghostly child remained in their minds, a haunting reminder of what they'd encountered in the darkness. Ghost in bedroom. In 2006, something unsettling happened in Pensacola, Florida, that no one could quite explain. While a man slept peacefully, a surveillance camera above his bed captured a strange occurrence. A soft yellow light filled the doorway, and then a figure emerged. It was thin, with an oddly shaped head and long limbs, moving with an eerie, careful slowness. It peeked around the doorframe, its presence unsettling in the quiet room. No one has ever figured out what it was or how it came to be there, leaving behind only the haunting footage as a mystery. Behind curtains.
Yo.
The fuck is that?
One evening, while out for a late-night walk, a man passed by an old house and noticed strange noises. Curious, he stopped and aimed his flashlight at a window. Behind the thin curtain stood a pale, motionless figure. Its face was dull and human-like, but something was off. It didn't blink or move, just stared in silence. The house appeared empty, with no one else around, but the figure remained, barely visible in the dim light. It seemed out of place, as though it shouldn't have been there at all, and definitely wasn't expecting to be noticed.
Yo.
The fuck is that?
Terrifying ghost.
What? There's something like that. What the hell?
One evening, a family was sitting in the lounge, enjoying a quiet night in front of the TV. Suddenly, the son noticed something strange, a dark figure peeking at them from behind the door. He pointed it out to his mom, who calmly walked over to close the door, assuring him it was nothing. But after a moment, the door slowly creaked open by itself. The mom, now a bit uneasy, raised her voice, telling whatever it was to leave them alone, saying, "This is my house."
Go in, this is my house. You're not allowed. Jacob.
Despite her words, the door remained open, and the room felt unnervingly still. The family sat there trying to make sense of what had just happened, unsure of what to do next.
Go in, this is my house. You're not allowed. Jacob, don't scream. Be quiet, don't be scared.
Moving chair.
Liam, come here. Liam, right now.
A babysitter was sitting on the couch, watching TV with a child in a quiet house when she noticed something strange. The chair beside her began to rock, slowly moving back and forth, as if someone was sitting in it. She quickly called the child over, trying to make sense of it, but the child was too far away to be the cause. Feeling uneasy, the babysitter called the mother. When she arrived, no one could explain. Some mysteries remain unsolved, leaving only the unsettling feeling behind.
Calling your mom. Just stay right here.
Mosque Encounter. While walking through the mosque at night, this man noticed something strange. He saw an entity sitting on the prayer cloth, jiggling in an eerie way. The figure's movements were unnatural, almost as if it couldn't stay still. The stillness of the night made the sight even more unsettling, and as he watched, he couldn't quite understand what was happening. The eerie jiggling continued, creating a sense of unease in the otherwise quiet mosque. Church ghost. In an old, forgotten church, a man's exploration took a terrifying turn. As he walked through the dark and quiet space, he suddenly saw a figure sitting at the front. A woman in a white gown, her skin unnaturally pale, sat completely still. Her eyes were dark and hollow, staring straight ahead with an eerie, empty gaze. The strange feeling that took over him made it clear. She wasn't human. Without thinking, he screamed and ran towards the door. He quickly got outside, but the image of the figure stayed with him, haunting his thoughts long after he had escaped.
Oh my God! What the fuck is that?
Haunted church. A security guard was on duty near a church one night when he heard strange noises coming from inside. Curious, he went to check, but when he entered, there was no one around. However, he decided to review the CCTV footage, and what he saw shocked him. A child's figure appeared right behind him, moving quietly as he walked through the church. The child seemed to follow him, staying just out of sight. After a while, the figure suddenly ran off in the opposite direction, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. Maybe next time going inside late at night won't be easy for him. Haunted hospital. This one was caught inside a hospital, a place rumored to be the most haunted in the world. One quiet night, as the corridors were still, a sliding door suddenly started opening and closing by itself. There was no one nearby. The door moved slowly, almost as if someone invisible was pushing it. People who watched the video were unsure whether to laugh it off or wonder if something more mysterious was at play. It was just another strange moment in a place full of them. Moving cup.
See.
A group of women were sitting around a table, enjoying a quiet game. A plastic cup rested near the center, right next to the deck of cards. Suddenly, without anyone touching it, the cup slid a few inches across the table. No one else moved. Nothing else in the room shifted, just the cup. For a few seconds, they all just stared in silence, unsure of what they'd just witnessed. One thing was clear, though, their peaceful game night had taken a strange turn.
See.
Peeking girl. A man was walking near an old abandoned building close to the woods. As he turned a corner, his eyes locked onto something. It was a face that looked like a young girl peeking out from behind the wall. The face didn't move. It simply stared at him. The man was shocked, but then slowly stepped closer to see more clearly. But by the time he reached the spot and looked around, there was nothing there. Whatever that was, it vanished like it was never meant to be seen. Woods mystery.
There's nothing, Spark. You see what I'm saying?
In 2001, a family vacationing in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, stumbled upon something strange. While walking near a field, they noticed odd movements at the edge. Grabbed their old handycam, they began filming. What they captured on tape seemed like ghostly figures marching over a rock and then floating back into the trees. It wasn't showing itself clearly, but it definitely made its presence known, almost like it had been waiting for him to come there. The footage was unlike anything seen before, especially since digital effects were not easily accessible at the time. Could this be evidence of restless spirits from the famous battlefield?
Right there. See?
Uh-huh.
Look.
Scary conversation.
Who are you talking to?
One evening, a dad walked to his son's room after hearing what sounded like a conversation. When he opened the door, his son was sitting, and it seemed like he was talking to someone. When the father asked about the other person, this is what he replied with.
Edward.
Who's Edward?
Is that there?
The dad glanced around the room, took a quick look, and then, well, he did a very undadly thing. He ran downstairs. I think he should have taken his son with himself too.
Edward.
Is that there?
No.
Flickering lights. This girl recorded the flickering kitchen lights. The lights blinked on and off in a strange, unsettling way. She didn't think much of it at the time and shared the video online. But as people started watching, they left comments pointing out something odd in the background. There, behind the wall, was a figure standing completely still. She hadn't noticed it when she filmed, and the realization left her and the viewers feeling uneasy about what they'd just seen. Forest encounter. During their camping trip, this man heard some strange noises in the night. Curious, he decided to check what it was. As he stepped into the darkness, he saw a creepy figure, its long hair hanging over an eerie, distorted face. The figure seemed to watch him for a moment before quickly disappearing back into the shadows. The unsettling sight left him frozen for a moment, unsure of what he had just witnessed, before he hurried back to the camp, still trying to make sense of it all. creepy encounter.
Well, me and my kid just got back from eating dinner. My bedroom light is on, which is strange because I don't remember leaving it on.
After a night out, a woman returned home with her child, pulling into the driveway. As she stepped out of the car, she noticed the lights in the house were on. She clearly remembered turning them off before leaving. A sense of unease crept over her as she wondered if someone had broken in. Just as she was about to enter, a dark figure suddenly appeared at the window, bathed in light. Before she could react, the light flickered and went out. Was it a thief, or was there something else in the house? She froze, unsure whether to feel relieved or terrified. But one thing was certain, there was someone in the house.
Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure I didn't leave it on. Come on.
And now, let's move on to the subscribers pick. One night, while walking home, a man noticed something that made him feel uneasy. On the opposite side of the road, near the trees, stood a dark figure that appeared to be a child. The figure was completely still, as if it was waiting for something or watching him. The man couldn't see much because the light was dim, but he had a strong feeling that the child was staring right at him, though he couldn't make out any details. The longer he looked, the more unsettling it became. Before this, something even more unusual happened, which made him leave. It was the right decision. And with that, see you next time.